Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody's having a great day. It's finally freaking Friday. I hope you tune into our live stream 9 o'clock tonight. We will be talking about this breaking news. I'm actually working on ingesting my morning video, in which case we are talking about the Dallas Cowboys finally make a move to start getting themselves right. To go ahead and set this up, the league year starts on Wednesday next week. 4 o'clock, teams have to be under the salary cap, okay? The Dallas Cowboys have been around $10.5 million under the salary cap and needing to get cap relief to get there. I know that sounds terrible, but typically the Cowboys are usually like 25, 30 million plus over the cap going into the league year, in which case they end up having to restructure several contracts. We heard, of course, Jerry Jones talking about going all in this year, which I think means a lot different things to different people. And maybe it was just one of those things he just kind of said and he didn't really mean it. But to be all in, they're going to have to get cap relief. Now, the low-hanging fruit, of course, would be Dak Prescott's contract. If the Cowboys were to get his long-term deal along with CeeDee Lamb, they would have a lot of money to go ahead and work with. But per Jane Slater, she's saying that look for this deal to be done sometime like in August, in which case they'll get cap relief, but it won't be able to help them in free agency unless we're talking about training camp free agency, where we've seen a team do things like Anthony Barr. In the meantime, they still have to get up under the salary cap of $255.4 million. They can restructure contracts real easily at the drop of a hat, just basically change the language of it and just take some of the salary for this year and turn it into guarantee or bonus money, in which case it's prorated. They can add voidable years onto it, basically deduct money in the future that they'll have to pay for later on. But they can get money. And when you look at the landscape as it is right now, the fact that there is a lot of great players that could elevate your team. The Cowboys, honestly, as much as we have talked trash about them, aren't that far away. And you've seen what other teams have done to get there. They've gone through and say, we've got a good team. Let's go ahead and push the chips in and let's get a few more studs, hired hands, whatever you want to call them, ringers to help them get over the hump. We saw the Eagles do that and go to the Super Bowl. We've been seeing the San Francisco 49ers do that year after year and finally getting back to the Super Bowl. We saw the Rams do that, win the Super Bowl. We saw Tampa Bay do that and win the Super Bowl. And so this is where you look at it and say, you know, whether you like it or not, this is the way you have to go about winning in football. And the Cowboys have been reluctant, kicking and screaming, to use all tools available. And in order to do that, you have to have money. And here's where the Cowboys have restructured Zack Martin. This is the first move the Cowboys have made this offseason. They've restructured $16 million of his money, now getting the Dallas Cowboys at $1.8 million in the black. Now, that's a start. That at least opens up the window that come next Wednesday, they're at least under the salary cap. And they don't have to do anything after that. But if you have a desire to keep some of your free agents, you may want to start having some money to be able to do that. If you're talking about keeping Stephon Gilmore, if you're talking about re-signing Tony Pollard, you will need some more money in there. Now, the good news for the Cowboys is there are contracts out there that you can do the same thing with. Easily, you can do it with Dak Prescott's and get $18 million. Although the problem with that is, if you look at it and say, with Dak Prescott, we're going to go ahead and get that extra, $20 million now, and let him walk. The problem is you'll end up paying him $39 million this year, but then you're going to have a $56 million dead hit next year because you've already added a voidable year where you've got $36 million put into it. So you've got that issue. You can go through and you can do Diggs' contract that way. You can do DeMarcus Lawrence's. There are several contracts you can do that. The only problem with that is by doing so, you're kicking the can down the road to possible problems in the future, because at some point the bills are going to come due. You can have money right now to do what you want, but at some time, if you don't pay the bills, they're going to repossess your car. And that's where cap hell comes in. So ideally, you don't want to restructure a deal for somebody that you're going to cut next year. In which case, they restructured Michael Gallup last year, and it looks like he'll be a post-June 1st cut. Now, the thing with Michael Gallup, you say, well, why do we still have him on the team? Well, the reality is there's no rush to do him, because you're going to make him a June 1st cut to maximize how much money you can get on him. And you can't use that money until June 1st. So that doesn't help you to get underneath the salary cap right now. And that doesn't help you as far as signing any free agents right now. Now, you could do that, use that money to sign, of course, your rookie class and still have some money left over, because you'll get about $9 million. And with the Cowboys drafting later in the draft, their numbers of what they're going to pay rookies is really going to be chump change in comparison. Or maybe you use his money for that next wave of free agency when teams start getting to OTAs and looking at some of the rookies and saying, this guy is going to be able to take a spot, that we can now release one of our veterans to save us some money on the cap and so on. And so you do have, come June, July, and into August, some veteran players that you look at and say, yeah, but that's typically more bottom basement, which of course is why the Cowboys like using, that time of year to sign players. For me, my own personal opinion is, if you're going to sign free agents, because of the nature of the NFL now, where you don't, and you see the Eagles literally just take minicamp and say, minicamp, we don't need minicamp. When you only have so many OTAs and minicamp practices to do all your installs, and now it's not like, when I went to my first training camp in 2012, where they had 2-a-day practices and they practiced all week. In the NFL now, you can't have more than 3 consecutive days of practices. You can only have 14 padded practices in training camp, and you can only have 14 padded practices during the season. There's not much time to get somebody up to speed and to actually do any work. And mind you, you can't actually go full speed in practice where you're actually tackling somebody. So it behooves you to get these players in sooner than later, so that way they can start learning your system and getting up to speed. Because ultimately, you can have 10 people that can do everything perfect, but if one guy doesn't know his assignment or screws up, then it screws up the whole team. All right, the Cowboys finally make a move. We'll keep up with this. Peace.